as an outhouse. And every morning, the fisherman, he would get up and he would take his pole with him, and he would walk down to the jetty and he would sit there, cast his line into the water, and watch the fish as they darted in and out beneath the water, through the sparkles that the sun cast upon it in little ripples. And one day, the fisherman caught a fish. The interesting thing was that when the fisherman caught this fish and he pulled it up, the fish started to talk. "Let me go, let me go, let me go at once," he said, for this was a magical fish. And he said to the fisherman, "I am not really a fish, I am a prince with magical powers, let me go now." Well, that fisherman was so surprised, so startled, and of course he did not want to eat a talking fish. So immediately, as he was there stunned, he let the fish go. And that fish turned around and darted back through the waters toward the horizon, leaving a small trail of blood behind him as he went. And that fisherman went back home. He went back to his wife. And he told his wife all that had happened. And the wife said to the fisherman, "Husband, you mean to tell me that you had a magic fish and you didn't ask him for anything when you let him go?" Well, no, wife, no, I didn't. The thought had never occurred to me. "Husband, you go back down there to those waters and you call that fish and you tell him that I want to have a nicer house. I don't want to live like this anymore. Go get me a nice house with some furniture." Well, the fisherman was a little bit afraid of his wife, and so he did what she told him to do, and he wandered back down there, kicking the stones as he went, going back to the jetty. "Fish, fish, fish, my wife Isabel," for that was the wife's name, "must have her will." And immediately the fish popped his head up through the water. "What is it that she wants?" said the fish. "My wife Isabel, she said she doesn't want to live in our little hovel anymore. She wants to have a nice house." And the fish said to the fisherman, "It's already done." And so the fisherman went back home. And when he came up to his house, it wasn't the home he had left. No, there was a beautiful picket fence there, and a beautiful little cottage stood in place of what could only have been described as an outhouse. And his wife Isabel stood there in front. She said, "Come in, husband, come in, come look at our house." And inside the house, no longer was it one room. No, there was a bedroom and there was a living room with a nice fireplace and a small little kitchen where Isabel could prepare the meals. And they walked out through the back door, and there was even a porch with some rocking chairs and a few chickens out there, out in the yard. And I will tell you that fisherman and his wife were so happy. And they lived there, oh my goodness, just looking forward to each new day in that beautiful little house for about 2 weeks. And then the fisherman's wife said to him, "Husband, this house is really too small. I don't like this house anymore. Go back and call that fish, and you tell him that we want a house made of stone." And so that fisherman, listening to his wife because he didn't know how to refuse her, walked back down to the waters, back on the jetty. "Fish! Fish, my wife Isabel must have her will." And the fish came back and his head popped up. "What do you want, fisherman?" said the fish. "Isabel says that the cottage that you gave us isn't quite exactly good enough, and she really would like to have a house that's made of stone." "It's already done," said the fish. And now the fish turned around and he darted back toward the horizon in greening waters. And the fisherman went back home, and when he got there, he saw a huge house made all of brick. And it was wonderful, and there were servants that came with the house, and the chef was in there. And oh my goodness, Isabel was pretty happy when the fisherman walked in. And the fisherman said, "You know what? This is like living in a castle. Wow, I feel like a king." And Isabel said, "What? Go back to that fish and tell him this is not what we want. We want a castle, and tell him that you want to be king." And the fisherman said, "I don't want to be king. I don't want to be king. Then I'll be king, said Isabel, his wife. And so what could the fisherman do but go back down to the waters? Fish, fish, give me my wish. My wife Isabel must have her will. And the fish popped his head back up. Yes, what is it that she wants now? My wife Isabel, well, she says she wants to be king. Can you give her a castle? It's already done, said the fish. And he turned around and he swam back toward the horizon through the murky brown waters. And the fisherman went home. And when he got there, he saw all manner of squires and maids in waiting and people coming to visit the royalty, which was now his wife, inside the castle. And he went in to the castle to see his wife, who was sitting there. Are you happy now, Isabel? Are you happy now? This is what I wanted. This is where I need to be, said Isabel. And now it was late in the day, and so they went off to go to bed. And the fisherman and his wife went into this beautiful room with the huge bed, with the blankets, the drapes around the bed, and the huge window there. And as they were drifting off to sleep, the fisherman said to his wife, well, what else could you possibly want now? Now you are king. There's really nothing grander, is there? And the wife tossed and turned, and in the morning she kicked her husband out of bed, said, husband, get up, go back down to the fish. I don't want to just be king. I want to be the emperor. I want to be an emperor. And so what could the fisherman do? He started to argue with her this time. Oh, come on. You don't want to be the emperor. You're already king. She said, husband, if you don't go, I'm the king. I'll have you beheaded. And so the fisherman once again strolled back down to the waters. Fish, fish, my wife Isabel must have her will. And the fish poked his head up. Isabel, she wants to be emperor. It's already done, said the fish. And now he swam back towards the horizon. Now the sky was getting dark. Clouds were moving in, and the waters were getting choppy. And the fisherman went home, and when he got there, he saw princes and kings from foreign lands, and princesses, and knights, and royal guards, and all manner of people coming to bow down to the emperor, his wife. And when he walked in to the castle, into the kingdom of the emperor now, he said, Isabel, are you satisfied? I am so tired. He said, no one has any greater power than you, except for the Pope. She said, Husband, you go back down and you tell that fish that I want to be Pope. What do you mean you want to be Pope, Isabel? There is only one Pope in all the world. How can you be Pope? Husband, go and tell the fish I wish to be Pope. And so the fisherman walked down and he got to the waters and he called to that fish, 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 I must have my wish. My wife Isabel must have her will. And the fish was immediately there, and he popped up his head. What do you want now, fisherman? My wife Isabel wants to be Pope. It's already done, said the fish. And you could see the ships out on the horizon as they were being tossed to and fro as the fish swam back through the murky waters. Oh, the fisherman, he trotted back toward the castle. He tried pushing his way through the winds to get back to his home. And now it was quite dark, and he was very exhausted. And he walked into the door, and there, surrounding his wife, were candles of every size, as tall as towers in a city, sitting on a throne that was so high he needed to shout for her to hear him as he stood at the foot of it. Isabel, can we go to bed now? I am so tired. And so the husband and the wife, the fisherman and the Pope, went up through the winding staircases up to their room and went to sleep. Oh, it was so late. They were both exhausted, and they lay there and they went to sleep. And almost as soon as they shut their eyes, the sun started to come up. And the sunbeam peeked through the curtain, and it tickled Isabel's nose. And she wanted it to go away because she wanted to sleep. And she complains to her husband. And the fisherman said, Isabel, what do you want to do? Control the sun and the moon? Husband, go back to the fish and tell him I want to be ruler of everything, of the sun and the moon. I want to be a god. And so what could the fisherman do? And he walked back down to the waters. And now there were cast off ships and pieces of broken things that had been in the water cast up upon the shore, and animals coming up the waves were treacherous and wild, and through all of this and through all of the wind, the fisherman stood there on the shore shouting out, Fish, fish, I must have my wish. My wife Isabel must have her will. And like that, the fish appeared again. What is it that she wants? My wife Isabel, she wants us to rule the heavens and the earth, the sun and the moon. And as soon as the words were out, everything was still. And the fish turned away through the muck and mire that was churned up in the waters. And the fisherman returned home. And when he got there, he found Isabel standing in front of their little hovel, which couldn't be called much else than an outhouse. And the two of them lived together there, the fisherman and his wife, happily ever after. And that is the story of the fisherman and his wife. There are many morals to this story. Find one that you like. Thank you very much.